All right. So here we're up to on Daf Yud Ches Amud Beis 18b. We're starting from the Mishnah, still learning about laws about Chol Hamoyed. So the Mishnah says that Ein Koisvin Shtare Choiv B'Moyed, that you don't write IOUs, documents of debt. We don't do that on Chol Hamoyed. That's not considered to be normally important. We're talking about, people sometimes trust each other and you'll write, I mean, for additional security, you write the document, but it's not crucial. It's not essential to have the document written right away. So therefore, on Chol HaMoed, ein koisvin shtare chayv b'moed. You don't write documents to record the debt on the Moed during the Chol HaMoed.
Does this
However,
does this mean
a
that
mitzvah to lend money, and sometimes a person needs money, and sometimes the person doesn't trust to give you money without a signed written document. So he says, "V'im einoi ma'minoi." If he doesn't believe him, and Rashi says, "V'im einoi ma'minoi." He doesn't trust, so he won't give him if he doesn't. He writes. So then he can write. He can write. You can write it. And there's another scenario. Say that this is what he does for a living. He writes documents, and he doesn't have food to eat. If it's his parnasa, that's the way he feeds himself. And if you're not going to let him do an achalamoyed, he's not going to have what to eat. Rashi says, L'soifer, the scribe. The scribe doesn't have what to eat. So in that case, Hades Yichtov, then he could write. So if it becomes situations in which it becomes very stressful, um, either he won't be able to take the loan if he doesn't write it, or he doesn't have what to eat if he doesn't get paid for writing. You're not going to allow to write. So then, Hadez Yichtov, then you can go ahead and write it. Next halacha. Mishnah says, Ein koisvin svarim tefillin umezuzas b'moyed. You're not allowed to write, whether it's a Sefer Torah, whether it's the tefillin, the parshias, or mezuzahs and the mezuzahs b'moyed during Chol HaMoed. Because you can wait after. There's no reason to write them dafka and yontov. Not only writing, ve'ein magin ois achas. Even to look over one letter. I want to check out, see if this letter is okay in the Sefer Torah. You can't do that on Chol HaMoed.
question?
And even afilu b'Sefer Ezra, even in the Sefer Torah of Ezra, the Sefer Torah of Ezra was the Sefer Torah that was used to authenticate all other Sefer Torah. That was considered to be the Sefer Torah. Yeah, go ahead.
So what
Sorry.
happens?
Sorry, I didn't hear you. I'm
Okay,
sorry. Go ahead.
so this actually came up this week. I was davening somewhere they only had one Sefer Torah, and they found that there was a problem with the Sefer Torah. They needed to rewrite, so some
You
letters.
talk about in your shul, yeah?
Not in my shul, in a different shul.
Okay, okay, yeah, yeah.
Uh,
During Chol HaMoed.
well, this didn't happen on Chol Moed, but it happened on Shabbos. But say it was
Okay.
over Yontif, then and you only have one Sefer Torah, and now the Sefer Torah is puzzle, would you not be able to fix it on Chol Moed so that you can read the Torah on Chol Moed and on end of Yontif and on Shabbos?
And I'd have to look double check, but I'm pretty sure that you could
You could.
in such circumstances.
Okay.
Because this in Chalamoy, they allowed you in all different. I have to look at specifically, but I'm pretty sure that in order to be able to lane, you're not going to be able to read from the Torah at all. That is a different status. Is that what they ruled? What did they rule over there?
Oh, it happened this past Shabbos, so yeah, they're going to fix it during the week. Uh,
Oh, okay.
but it just made me think that if the same
Yeah,
thing happened
okay.
on
Okay.
Yontif.
Okay. I had two things off. I didn't have the camera on you, and I also didn't have the speaker on.
Uh,
So for some reason, I didn't hear you. How long did you wait for me to respond?
well, I had another question before, but we're good, good.
Okay, I apologize.
All
So
good.
because I didn't hear and I didn't see. Okay, but now at least I hear. I'll hear.
Okay.
Um, so now we say uh, that ain. So even to be magia or isachas, even in the book of Ezra, which is an important book, but you can't do it on Chol Hamoed. And like I understand that you can't do it because you should do it either before or after. Don't leave it for Chol Hamoed. But maybe in a case where it gets to be those other Sefer Torah, maybe it would be different. Rabbi Yehuda says, while we're not writing a Sefer Torah, but Koisav Odom Tefillin Mezuzos La'atzmei. A person can write Tefillin and Mezuzos for his personal use. In other words, it's a difference between buying it to use for the sell or for hire, but individually for yourself, that is okay. Rashi says, why la'atzmai? L'kayim zeh ha-mitzvah, to fulfill this mitzvah. That is permissible because you're doing a mitzvah at the time of writing a Sefer Torah or the Tefillin Mezuzahs. Again, I'm not sure. There is no mitzvah in writing alone. The mitzvah is to put on the tefillin and the mezuzah and to put up the mezuzah. So maybe if he's putting up the mezuzah, but by the Hasidim, we don't put tefillin on Chalamoid anyways. That would be. But in any event, for fulfilling this mitzvah, I'm not sure what does Rashi mean, lekayim zeha mitzvah, so that he should do the mitzvah. There's a mitzvah in writing a Sefer Torah. I don't think there is a mitzvah specifically writing tefillin and mezuzahs. There's mitzvahs involving them, but there's no positive mitzvah that one should write tefillin and mezuzahs. But it seems like Rashi is saying that he wants to fulfill the mitzvah. So it almost seems like that he puts on tefillin on Chol. But anyways, it's another discussion. But Rashi explains that it's only permitted to do it for oneself. Avo litzibur, but to write it for the community. Limkor, to sell. So the derech schiras hava, that's a way of earning a living. That's doing it for money. Choshim melocha, that's considered work. If you're doing it for yourself to fulfill the mitzvah, that's okay. But for the community, to sell it to them, that's considered is a path of business. It's like hiring it, and this is choshev malacha. That's considered work. The Rebbe brings down kedamrina leil unkira the kivon the lab akra koshokil sharshuyi ba'almahu v'shori. Basically, what it means that the the person who's not taking money, uh, and that's just that is permitted. So not making a business out of it is permitted. Uh, then further it says v'tova al yireichot chelas litzitzisoy. He's allowed to weave on his lap the techelas that he needs for his tzitzis. Now you have to spin the tzitzis and you have to uh, get them ready. So you need the tchelas for the tzitzis, tchelas for the tzitzis that you need. Uh, So he says the person can do it in a shinui way. Al Yereche. Zok Rashi hachutim. He's weaving, he's spinning, weaving those strands, but this can only be done on his lap. Avaloi biyodi, bein etz be'oiso. There's a way of doing it with his hand in between his fingers, so that's like spinning the strands between his fingers to make him into these psil chelas, and also ubepelach, and not using the spindle. Kederach, that's the spindle that they use in order to spin it. You can't do it. You can't use a pelach in the weekday turn. So it has to be first on your lap and not on your hands, and not with a pelach like you do in the weekday. We'll see in the Gemara more about it. Zog the Gemara, Tana Rabbanan. We learned in the Braisa that koisav odom tefillin umezuzois la'atzmai. A person can write the tefillin and mezuzah for himself. V'toive al yireichei tcheles litzitzisoy. And he can spin on his lap tcheles for his tzitzis. So, u'lacherim b'toive. You can also do it for others as a favor. V'loi b'schar. If you're not getting paid for it, then that's okay. That's the opinion of Rabbi Meir. Divrei Rabbi Meir, this is the opinion of Rabbi Meir. So Rabbi Yehuda says, Mairim umoicher es shaloi. The person can make a trick. He's talking going back to the tefillin and the mezuzahs, even though he's doing it for himself, but he can make a trick. He says, I'm writing the tefillin and mezuzahs for myself. So, and then he sells it. So he's allowed to do it for himself, and then he goes and sells what he owns. Then then he can keep on writing for himself. So technically, he's writing it for himself, and then he goes and he takes his own tefillin, let's say, or his own mezuzah, he sells it. So now he doesn't have again, so he can write for himself again tefillin and mezuzahs. So that's in a way of a trick to get to actually get the money for writing tefillin and mezuzahs. That's the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. So Rabbi Meir did not allow only for yourself. He didn't allow to sell your own to make the trick. That was an allowance of Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yosef's opinion is you can write and continue to sell enough for your livelihood. This is more than what we learned in the Mishnah, that if you don't have what to eat, the Sefer, he can write. But this is talking about for you, this is your parnasa, what you need, even more than just to eat. It's in a more wider way. Rashi says kidei parnasosei bar vocha, in a wide way. Well, we're not talking about somebody who doesn't have what to eat over here. So therefore, this is a greater allowance. The Gemara says, Oire Rav Rav Chananel. Rav taught to Rav Chananel, and other people say Rabbi Babachona Rav Chananel, that it was Rabbi Babachona that taught it to Rav Chananel. That halacha, the law is, the ruling is that koisev umoicher kedarkoi kidei parnososei, that he can continue writing and selling as usual for his livelihood. Meaning, if this is his livelihood, he can continue writing and selling. So that's the most lenient opinion that the Rav ruled, or Rabbi Baruch Chana ruled, to Rav Chananel. The next thing we learned in the Mishnah is v'tova al yereichet tchelos, that he can weave spin on his lap the tchelis. Then the Rabbanu will learn to Nabraisa. Tova Odom al Yerecha Tchelis Litzitzisoi. A person is allowed to weave on his lap the tchelis for his tzitzis. Avol loy be'evan. You cannot use a stone. They used to use a weight to weight down the strands, so the tchelis, so that he can spin it easier. That you can't do. Avol loy be'evan. You can't use a stone. Shatoila bechut. He hangs it onto the string. It's a weight. Kidei sheyuchal l'shoyzrei yofa, so that it should be able to spin it well. So that you're not allowed to do. Divrei Rabbi Elazar, that's the opinion of Rabbi Elazar. V'chachomim oivrim, the Chachomim say, Av be'evan, you can even use a stone. Doesn't matter. Rabbi Yehuda Eimer Mishmoi, Rabbi Yehuda says from the name of Rabbi Elazar. So we have here a machloikis between Rabbi Elazar and the Chachomim, the way the Brisa quoted it. Rabbi Yehuda, however, he says in the name of Rabbi Elazar differently, that the Evan Avaloi Bepelach, that he doesn't have, Rabbi Elazar doesn't have objection to the Evan. He says, yes, an Evan, yes, the weight, yes, Avaloi Bepelach, but you can't use that, the regular spindle that you use for spinning, you can't use that. The Chachomim say you can do it either way. Bein ba'av, bein b'polach. That's the way Rabbi Yehuda says. Omar Rabbi Yehuda, Omar Shmuel. So they're differing in what the machloikis is exactly. But Rabbi Yehuda said the name of Shmuel. V'chein Omar Rabbi Chia bar Abba Rabbi Yochanan. Halacha bein ba'av, bein b'polach. The halacha is that you can do either way, whether it's a stone and even the pelach. The most lenient, that's the Chachomim's opinion, as Rabbi Yehuda quotes it. The halacha is also you can write in the normal way and sell enough for your livelihood. Next Mishnah. Mishnah talks about hakoiver es meisei shloisha yomim koidem loregel. One who buries his dead, somebody died, 3 days he buries him before the Yom Tov. 3 days he already had time to do the main Avelis. The main Avelis is the first 3 days. So the person already had the time to do the main Avelis. So if he had the Avelis 3 days, of course we'll see later on, but us the halacha is even for one bit before but he says 3 days. But lo himenu gzeira shiva. Then he doesn't have to sit shiva anymore. The Yom Tov takes away the shiva. Rashi, hakoiver meisa shloisha yomim koidem haregel. One who buries his dead 3 days before the holiday for Yom Tov. Hoyil v'iker avelus einei elo shloisha yomim. Since mourning, the main part of mourning is 3 days, and he had 3 days of mourning already. So then, Batlo Himenu Gzeras Shiva, the Shiva is no longer Batlo Gzeras Shiva. The La'achar Haregel Einei Tzodich Limnois Yoser. After Yontif, he doesn't have to count anymore Shiva. He's done with Shiva. But he would still have to do Shloshim, right? But if he counted Shmoinan, 8 days, in other words, he buried 8 days before, Butlo Himenu Gzeira Shloshim. Then that means that in addition to the 7 days, he also did an 8th day. He did all of Shiva plus 1 day of Shloshim. So if he did already 1 day of Shloshim, says the Tanakama, then he doesn't have to do Shloshim at all. Shmoina Yomim Zakrashi Koidem Haregel. Batlo Mimenu Gzeiras Shloshim, so the decree of 30 days has been taken away from him. The hoyu v'hischil yoim echod min hashloshim. Since he started one day of the shloshim, that's the eighth day. Einei tzorich lishmer klum la'achar haregel. Din shloshim doesn't have to keep anything after the Yom Tov of the 30 days. Alamuter la'alter, but immediately after Yom Tov, he's allowed to bitich boises and washing and begiuts and ironing. It is payers and taking a haircut. That's what. Why? So he says mipnei sha'omru, because the Chachamim said that Shabbos oila, that the Shabbos counts for one of the days. So Shiva, the day of Shabbos is always counted. We count the day of Shiva. The day of Shabbos is one of the Shiva days. So Shabbos oila, Shabbos counts. Shabbos oila, Ira Shabbos bimei evloi. If Shabbos happens to be during the morning days, oila leminyan Shiva, then that counts for 7. That's one of the 7 days. However, Shabbos ve'ena mafsekes, it does not interrupt, which means ein mafsekes, that it doesn't stop the Shiva. The la'achar Shabbos tzorich lahashlim Shiva yemei avelus ima Shabbos. After Shabbos, you have to complete the 7 days. Yes, with the Shabbos. Shabbos is one of the 7 days, but you got to finish. It doesn't interrupt it. But the regolim, when we're talking about festivals, Yom Tovim, mafsikim, they interrupt. Regolim mafsikim. If he buried 3 days before the Yom Tov, mafsik ha'avelus legamri. That would interrupt the avelus totally. V'la'achar haregel ein mashlim klum. He doesn't have to when he says mafsikin here, he's not talking about the shloshim. He's talking about the shiva, the chikover meiser shloshi yom koid maregel. So we say mafsik havelus legamri. So then when Yom Tov comes, it is mafsik da havelus. Ulachar regel ein mashlim klum. He doesn't have to make up none of the shiva. But he's not talking about, because he said the Fedish before in the Mishnah, the hoil v'hischil yomechad min hashloishim. That's why it's only if it's 8 days. But here, let's see weiter. We'll see in the Gemara. So Yom Tov interrupts Shiva. We're talking about the Shabbos Oila, the minyan Shiva, Mirav Sekes Shiva, the Regolim Mafsikim. So if the regular interrupts, and after the Yom Tov, you don't have to do Shiva anymore after Yom Tov. But the Einon Oilim, but they don't count, which means, how does it mean they don't count? But we say that as soon as if it's before Yom Tov, you need 3 days. The Chikovar Meisel B'toich Regel, if you bury within the Yom Tov, the Loi Botlo Mimenu Gzeiras Zayin, over there the 7 days is not bottled because he buried on Yom Tov itself. Ein Yimei HaRegel Oilin Leminyan Zayin Yimei Avelus. Ein Yimei HaRegel Oilin Leminyan Zayin Yimei Avelus. Then the days of the festival do not count for the 7 days of Avelus. El La'achar HaRegel Tzorich Leishev Zayin Yimei Avelus. He has to sit for the 7 days of Avelus after Yom Tov. Now, um, so he didn't sit. He didn't have shibaron. I'm wondering why does Rashi in this svara, uh, why only if he buried his mace within the Yom Tov? What happened if he buried the mace 2 days before Yom Tov, not 3 days? So L'cheira would be the same thing, because the the Yom Tov would be mafsik. No, 1 second. What would happen? Regol mafsikim shloisha yomim koydem haregel ve'enum oilim. Uh, the chakam remeisa b'tech haregel the bottom menakode elach tzorich leishav zayin yimevelas. That's what Rashi says. Zuhi svarosi. Oh, behetek matzasi. But I found in a copy that ve'ein oilim means the chikoveres meisei shnei yomim lifnei haregel. So that does not. Ein yimei haregel oilim leminyan shivas yimei evloi. Elal achar haregel tzorich leishev hey yimei avelis. He has to sit another 5 day lahashlim l'shnei yomim shenoag lifnei haregel. That it means. That's what I think. Why shouldn't it mean that? Vani oimer kitou soferhu. But he says it's a mistake. The masheniska shleshi yom lifnei haregel lab davke. That 3 days is lab davke. You don't need to afilu sha'achas lifnei haregel. Botlam and exeda shiva the regel mafsik. Rashi argues take that you don't have to wait, even though it says shloisha, but you don't need. Yom Tov is mafsik anytime. So therefore, you don't have to. It's not Einam Oili means that we don't count it for the Shiva and you're going to have to make up later on, like the others want to learn. The other Pshat, the Hetek, Rashi says no. You're never, if the Yom Tov comes and you set even for 1 minute beforehand, the regular is mafsik, and you don't have to sit later on. That's the way Rashi learns. It's only if it's in the Yom Tov that it's not mafsik, then you have to sit full 7 days later on after Yom Tov. Rabbi Lezer says, B'shechorav Beis Hamikdash, after the Beis Hamikdash was destroyed, she'ein la'atzeres tashlumim kol zayin, ve'einei elo yom echad, that the Shavuos does not have the makeup of all 7 days. Shavuos, in the time of the Beis Hamikdash, Shavuos was 1 day, but the korbanos they couldn't bring in 1 day, so they had 7 days to bring it up. So it was also technically 7 days. But after the Beis Hamikdash, Shavuos doesn't have makeup for 7 days. It's only really 1 day. He says Atzeres ki Shabbos. Then we treat Atzeres like Shabbos, which means V'dine ki Shabbos the Oila ve'enim afsekes. It counts as part of the 7, and it doesn't interrupt because Shavuos will be like Shabbos. In other words, the reason why Yom Tov is not mafsik and it's not Oila, Rogon mafsik is because it's more than 1 day. But since Shavuos is 1 day, it's the same like Shabbos. Rabbi Gamliel says, Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippurim k'regolim. They say that Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur have this din of a regel, even though they're 1 day, or talking about in the time of the Beis Hamikdash. But they say Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur is a festival. The festivals are mafsik. Rosh Hashanah is mafsik. Yom Kippur is mafsik. And the Chachomim say, Loiki divrezeh v'loiki divrezeh, not like Rabbi Lozer and not like Rabbi Gamliel, Ella atzeres kiregolim. Tzeres has to do like a regular Yom Tov. It's mafsik. It doesn't care. I guess even Bisman Hazeh, because Rabbi Lezer is only talking with Shechara Beis Hamikdash. Ela Tzeres Kiregolim, not like Shabbos. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippurim are like Shabbos, while Hoil ve'Eino Eliyem Echad. Since Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur are just one day, so they're considered like Shabbos. And Shavuos, I guess, even Bisman Hazeh, when we don't have the Karbonos, it's still not considered one day, and it is like Yerugolim, and it's mafsik ve'Eino. So the Gemara, Amar Rab, Gzeiras Botlu. Yomim le botlu, which means the gezeda of 30 days, Rashi says, gezedas botlu, zokt Rashi, gezedas shloishim, the gezeda of 30 days, that is botlu. And the Gemara is going to explain what we're talking about over here, but he's basically saying that they took away the 30 days, the Geseda of the 30 days they took away, but the days lebotlu shloishim yoim lebotlu that lion tluyim va'imdim. Um, all right, we're gonna make it a little shorter here today. A, I'm not feeling so well, and B, I'm stuck here. I gotta look it over the Gemara. So we'll have a little smaller share, and we'll start next week. We'll start from the Gemara, Mitzvah Shem over here.
I hope you feel better.
Thank you.
Thank you. Feel better, Rabbi.
Thank you.